Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Critical Weight Theory. And this is a bit of a different episode. It's almost a special episode, if you will, because I'm sort of delving into trivia. And this is about a phenomenon that involves, you know, breast shaped hills, really. And I'm going to be talking about how they influence different cultures and whatnot. So there's a strange, beautiful symmetry that repeats itself in nature. We see it in seashells and spiral galaxies, and sometimes in hills. Across the world, from Ireland to the Caribbean, there are mountains shaped like, well, breasts, boobs, whatever you want to call them. I could go through an entire lengthy list of slang terms for them, but we're gonna be stylish and sophisticated here and just call them breasts. Like you could roll the R, breast. It sounds fancier that way, doesn't it? Like more dignified. Um, but I could exhaust the possibilities by really branching out and getting distracted. But I'm not doing that today. So they're rounded, smooth, rising gently from the earth like a reflection of the human form. They've been called mamelons, mound hills, breast mountains, and sometimes simply paps. They're like Earth's curves, And you have to wonder, what are these so called breast shaped hills really? Geologically speaking, most are erosional remnants or volcanic domes, places where harder rock has resisted the weathering that wore everything else away. Over time, wind and rain sculpted the landscape, leaving behind smooth, rounded peaks that happen to resemble the curves of a woman's body. Ah, so nice. In volcanic regions, these shapes often form mamelons, small domes made of thick, sticky lava that cools quickly. Elsewhere, they're the result of differential erosion, where softer rock erodes faster than what lies beneath. I almost said lies. What lies beneath. It's nature's slow, patient artistry, and somehow it creates this universal familiar form. Well, that's not to say they all look exactly alike, but they're around the world, and the image is of two hills that resemble, you know, what I've already talked about here. So you'll find these formations almost everywhere. In Scotland, there are the Paps of Jura, twin peaks whose very name comes from the old Scots word for breasts or breasts. Sailors once used them as landmarks visible from far out at sea. In Venezuela, there are the Titas de Maria Guevara, twin hills rising from a national park, directly named after their unmistakable shape. Then there's St. Lucia, or St. Lucia, however that's pronounced. There are the Two Sisters, steep volcanic cones tied to local legend. And then there's the Sleeping Woman in Mexico, resembling a reclining female figure. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the proper Spanish name. It's like, well, I will try to pronounce it just because it's entertaining, because I suck at pronouncing, you know, languages that I don't tend to speak. But it's La Mujer Dormida. That could be semi accurate. But anyway, the sleeping woman resembles a reclining female figure, like I said, her profile forming part of the dramatic volcanic chain that includes Popocatépetl, the smoking mountain. So I'm sure I did not pronounce that right, but hopefully derived a little bit of humor from this gringo mispronouncing these words. And in East Africa, formations like Mount Elgon and Olumu Rock carry local associations with fertility and femininity. It's remarkable how many cultures, continents apart, looked at the same shape and saw the same meaning. But then again, maybe it's not that remarkable. It's a very common thing that a person might think of when they see something resembling a human being. And if you've got mound like shapes, well, I mean, hey, you've got those things on your mind sometimes, right? So, what is the meaning beneath? How profound do some people look? How profoundly affected are some people by these breast-like mountains? Across time, these hills have been more than landmarks; they've been symbols in many traditions. They're tied to fertility and femininity. They represent the earth as a nurturing mother, feeding, protecting, and sustaining life. Some served as sacred sites, places of offering or worship, not worship with an A, but worship. And, the great mother goddess type of thing. And they appear under different names across the world: Inanna in Samaria, Ishtar in Babylon, Isis in Egypt, Aphrodite in Greece. Historian Karen Armstrong once wrote that these myths weren't meant to be taken literally, but as metaphorical attempts to describe a reality too complex to express any other way. The mother goddess was a symbol of the life force itself, powerful, creative, and profoundly human. Then there's the breasts of Anu. Nowhere is this connection clearer than in Ireland at the Paps of Anu in County Kerry. Two nearly symmetrical mountains rise from the land, and to the ancient Celts, they weren't just hills, they were the breasts of the mother goddess Anu, also known as Danu, the divine mother of the Tuatha De Danann. I probably mispronounced that. But anyway, it's you know, a very significant cultural phenomenon, and rituals were once held there to bless the land and ensure fertility. Stone cairns still crown the peaks, stone nipples, some say, marking the sacred feminine in stone and sky. For thousands of years, these hills have stood as both landscape and symbol. Maybe because it's like cold outside, they. I'm I'm sorry, I had to go there. You know, uh, that's why the stone cairns seem so erect. But anyway, it's a physical embodiment of nurture, renewal, and the deep bond between Earth and humanity. So today, pilgrims visit the Paps of Anu to honor that lineage, the ancient rhythm that says the earth is alive, she feeds us, and she remembers. Now, I've never really been that much of a type of person that wants to personify the planet. You know, I think people are enough. You don't need to pretend that the earth is like a person or something like that. But I think it's cute or whatever. I kind of respect it on a basic level. It's a little bit silly, and maybe I sound like a cultural snob or elitist by saying that, but I think there might even be a little bit of a danger to trying to treat the earth as if it's a human being or whatever, treating nature as if it's mother nature or anything like that, whatever, just applying human traits to the universe overall. It seems like a bit of a slippery slope, right? Because you can pretend that human beings are greater than they are, and that they're just as powerful or more powerful than the entire universe or something. It's a little bit of an ego thing, I think, that you can't. I mean, that's one of the ironic things about human beings is we're always trying to separate ourselves from nature in one way, in one sense, but then we're always trying to like act as if we're masters of the universe at the same time. But how can you truly master something without sort of being a part of it? Like if you're conquering every aspect of nature, then it's almost implied that you're a part of that nature, that you're so in control of it that you're practically one and the same. Yet there's a contradiction if you're also treating yourself as separate from natural forces and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, it could go either way. Like if you're trying to separate yourself too much from it, or trying to act too much like you're a part of it. There are technical distinctions that we should make between ourselves and the universe around us. And wow, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked in this sort of philosophical, uh, I guess, silliness. But anyway, I'm just trying to be deep, I guess, to make this episode seem like it's deeper than just talking about mountains that look like boobs. So, anyway, what's fascinating is how universal the pattern is: different continents, different histories, but the same recognition of form and meaning. Maybe it's because we see ourselves in the land, bodies, cycles, creation stories, all that. Or maybe the land shaped us first, long before we shaped the myths. Either way, the hills remind us of something simple, that we are not separate from the earth, we are part of its body. Although, at the same time, like I said, you also have to be able to see yourself as technically separate from everything too. So it's a complex thing that I don't think we'll ever truly figure out, like our true place in the universe and the purpose of everything out there and everything in here. So anyway, you've been listening to critical weight theory and this episode about hills that have shaped the world. And if you enjoyed this episode for some reason, follow the show and leave me a review. You can click like or subscribe if there's any button like that there. And, it really helps new listeners find this show if they would potentially want to listen to it. And eventually I'm, going to do more trivia stuff on here. I'm going to look at more interesting stories, more peculiar and strange bits of history, as well as, doing movie reviews and music reviews and talking about politics and social topics or whatever. Anyway, look around. The earth has stories to tell if you know how to read its shape. And yeah, try not to think too much about uh, a hill as if it's a nice rack or whatever, because it's probably not healthy for you. You might be a little bit too obsessed if you're if, if you're too infatuated with them hills. All right, have a good one.